Hi, welcome to Pennsylvania Newsmakers, and as always, thanks for watching. Well, we have a trio of the state's top reporters. These folks cover the Capitol. We're going to do some interesting stuff, big stories of the week there, and then our friends from the Pennsylvania Credit Union Association are going to help you and your taxes out. What's that all about? Stay with us, and you'll find out.
This is Pennsylvania Newsmakers, a fast-paced, unrehearsed weekly discussion with and about the leaders who shape your world. And now, here's your host, Terry Madonna.
Hi, welcome back to the program. Well, we got a lot on tap here. We want to take a look at Governor Corbett. He delivers his budget address on Tuesday. That would be his second address. Lots going on with redistricting. Joining me, as often is the case, are some of the state's top reporters. These reporters particularly cover the state capitol. Sitting figuratively anyway on my right here is Amy Worden from the Philadelphia Inquirer, and across the way, Matt Belanger from WGAL, and of course, John Micek with the Allentown Morning Call. All right, here's what we're going to do, folks. We're going to do a rapid round. I want each of you to pick a story that you or your colleagues have been working on that you think is of some importance. We're going to do this, give them each about a minute. I'm going to turn first to Amy Worden. Pick one. What do you want to talk about?
Bill DeWeese.
Bill DeWeese, go ahead.
A former House Speaker, former House Democratic leader, is on trial in on a public corruption case. Testimony wrapped up this week. He took the stand, highly unusual, highly...
That's never happened. I understand that. Has that happened before?
I don't think so. And
Wow.
Not that I've heard. He spent 3 hours on the stand yesterday, parrying, to use a word he would use, with the Attorney General's office. You know, as his lawyer said, I had to let him speak, and he did.
Well, that's because he probably insisted on it, right?
Yeah.
Knowing DeWeese.
Yeah.
Well, now.
But what's interesting about this case is he's the last man standing of all of the people who've been charged in the so-called bonus gate, computer gate.
He's the last big guy. We have Steve Stetler yet, right? The lawyer
Correct,
from
but he's the last one. Correct. Steve Stetler's case is still to come. But Bill DeWeese is the last one still in the legislature, and not only that, he's running again. He's running again. He's
now, as we tape this, we yet do not have a verdict, but this would pull us down literally to the end. One more to go, right?
Yes.
All right, great update. All right, I want to go to John Micek, and then we'll do Matt Belanger. All right, John, some big story that is worth commenting about.
Terry, one of the great political mysteries in Pennsylvania was finally unraveled this past week. Kathleen Kane, one of two Democrats now running for the Democratic nomination for Attorney General, former Lackawanna County prosecutor, shocked the political establishment when she revealed that she had $2 million in her campaign account.
Where'd she get $2 million?
Well, no one really knew. That was the thing. She wouldn't say. She said, well, I think there's some loans. I don't really know how much. This week, because campaign finance reports were filed, we finally found out. Ms. Kane donated $5,000 of her own money. Her husband's family, which runs a very large trucking concern up in the Scranton area.
I know where this is heading.
The husband kicked in some cash. The rest was $1.75 million in loans. So the bulk of Ms. Kane's money came from a loan from her husband's very wealthy trucking family. Patrick Murphy, the former Bucks County congressman who's also running, had about $1 million and some change in his campaign accounts as well.
So what you're saying, with this kind of money, we could expect some TV commercials, you think, with that kind of money?
I think so.
This is a hot rate. We'll be covering that, and we'll have you guys back.
This will be one of the great contests, I think, in sort of stealthy contests this year.
And wouldn't the Democrats like to get into the Attorney General's office?
40 years, never had it. Never had it. 30 years,
All right,
never had it.
Matt Belanger, what big story were you covering?
Yeah, the House of Representatives quietly passed a resolution, largely ceremonial, but a resolution declaring that 2012 is the year of the Bible. It had happened quietly, but it started to get talked about more and more. Some folks coming forward expressing some criticism about that, whether it's excluding other religions, and also big part of the conversation that's coming about is here's the legislature declaring 2012 the year of the Bible, but we have a lot of pressing real state issues out there that need to be addressed, and they're saying, why are we spending time doing this?
Go ahead, Amy, go ahead.
We reach a consensus on it, Matt.
Oh, was that it?
Yeah, and it passed unanimously, but now there's the criticism, just lots to talk about.
All right, there you go, three big stories. We're going to run to a break. When we come back, I'm going to start off with John Micek. Got a little bit of a budget preview. Governor Corbett, his second budget. The size of the deficit, what's going on. We'll be back in a moment and take up that subject.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by the Pennsylvania Chamber of Business and Industry, the statewide voice of business. and by the Pennsylvania Cyber Charter School, bringing educational innovation and freedom to the children of Pennsylvania. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by BetterSaferRoads.com. To voice your support for safer highways and less traffic congestion, visit BetterSaferRoads.com. And by the Pennsylvania Manufacturers Association. Business in Pennsylvania is our business.
Hey, welcome back. We're doing a little journalist roundtable on some of the big issues before the state. John Micek, Tuesday, big day in Harrisburg. Are the state's finances worse off than they were last year when we had a $4 billion deficit? How are revenues coming in? Take it.
I guess we're slightly less bad than it used to be. Not horrible, but not great. As we sit here, the state looks like it's going to finish out the 2011-12 fiscal year about $500 million to the bad. That's been a sort of constant figure. Budget Secretary Charles Zogby said that back in December in his mid-year budget briefing. January revenue figures came in just this week. Sales tax revenues are up. PIT, personal income tax collections, are down. Corporate tax collections are down. Right. Refreshingly, I guess, for the state, Pennsylvania's continue to die consistently, so inheritance tax revenues are actually up. And realty transfer taxes, which are actually a sign of economic activity, are up marginally. So it's sort of a mixed picture, but on some of the big indicators, a little sketchy. Already word that there'll be some more cuts in this budget. No one knows quite what. Was talking with Mike Crossy, the president of the PSEA, the big teachers union, the other day. They, of course, are bracing themselves again because they took it on the chin last year.
Amy, but doesn't appear, I mean, have you learned yet that there'll be huge cuts to an area like education really took a hit? You know, the legislature restored some of the money. Have you heard anything about whether they're big cuts or what does it seem? Little cuts? Or are we just going to have to wait?
Well, I think the social services world is bracing again for another round. I mean, and they took a big hit last year when you talk about funding for health care. Right. Now, more recently, we've got the food stamp issue. We've got the whole realm of programs, drug and alcohol counseling and child care and everything. There seems to be again another round of scrutiny on those programs.
Now, Matt, one of the things that I hear about, and then after Matt, if you want to jump in on this, is that the administration says it will have a series of new initiatives. And it seems to me that are they likely to be private sector initiatives? Is there any money in this budget for expansions of programs?
That's going to be a very hard sell. I mean, and I think the headline that we're going to take out of the day for sure will be what happens with public education because of, I mean, nearly $1 billion last year. That is where the headline's going to come from. Now, it's going to be hard for Governor Corbett to present a budget that cuts public education further.
I mean, for the second time.
Exactly. Yeah. At the same time, announcing some new initiatives that cost money, that would be a PR nightmare.
Yeah, you agree with that?
I mean, I can't imagine where they're going to go for additional pots of money, but I think you might see our old proposals with a new coat of paint on them. Maybe, the governor will revamp his school reform program. We know that the governor is supposed to signal on Budget Day where he wants to go with transportation funding, for instance.
Yeah. And that's a big deal, and polls show that that's pretty important to voters, but you've got license fees and things that aren't popular, right?
And stuff you have to talk about in an election year.
In an election year, will they vote for taxes? Go ahead, Matt.
Well, I think the other thing that we're going to have to watch for is the explosion, no pun intended, that's going to happen as the governor delivers this budget address, and we potentially don't have any kind of movement on something to do with Marcellus Shale. Having this bill still out there in limbo regarding an impact fee.
Go ahead.
Well, I think one bad sign on the social services front is the fact I got a notice yesterday that there will be a vigil before the budget announcement, and I thought that's really new.
A vigil, in other words,
they don't even know what's in it, but they're holding a vigil anyway.
But they're anticipating.
But I think the pressure on shale is going to grow. It's going to grow exponentially because as more and more people on the lower end are hurt.
They've been in talks for the last week, legislative staffers in the administration, and last time I checked in on this, which was early part of last week, they were starting to get near to something. The goal had been to have a compromise bill in hand before the governor gives his budget address on Tuesday. Who knows, perhaps by Monday that process might role,
Right.
but, you know, who can tell?
But
Okay.
the more they languish, okay, you're going to see more people coming forward wanting a piece of that pie, and that's where this conversation is going to get very heated, because as they drag their feet, every interest group is going to come back to the Capitol saying, I want some of
All
this.
right, we're going to run to a break. Segment 3, guess what? Court-ordered legislative redistricting thrown out. We don't yet, as we air this, have a decision on the rationale. Why did the Supreme Court chuck out the Reapportionment Commission's State House and State Senate maps? Our journalists will weigh into that subject after these words.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by Pennsylvania Credit Union Association. Pennsylvania Credit Unions, where people are worth more than money. To find a credit union that is right for you, check out ibelong.org. And by the Energy Association of Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania's energy information source. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by the State System of Higher Education. 14 state-owned universities. The state system is the largest provider of higher education in Pennsylvania. And by the Hospital and Health System Association of Pennsylvania, working towards a healthy Pennsylvania.
Hi, welcome back. Well, to Amy Worden, to say the least, the Supreme Court stunned the political community when it threw out the maps. We're still not sure where it will all go. That is the redistricting. What's the latest?
Well, yeah, well, big questions. We've got a lot of court battles shaping up here as we await the final full ruling by the Supreme Court on redistricting. They threw out the maps that were just approved, said basically we're going to need to go back to the drawing board, but we don't know the parameters of that, so everything is thrown into a state of limbo. Meanwhile, the House Speaker is suing, saying it's unconstitutional. We need to that going by the 2001 census would be unconstitutional, and we've got other suits brewing, possibly among minority groups. So it's
a mess.
It is.
All right, John, let me frame this for you. It looks like, and just to speculate, that the court's rationale is that we have too many municipalities broken up, you know, having more than one House member or senator violates the state constitution. But they're petition filing now in the old legislative districts.
That's right.
With a May primary. Weigh in on that.
Well, it's a potential nightmare. Well, it's actually, I wouldn't want to be a candidate out there petitioning now, running, you know, circulating petitions on what you hope is going to be the district, and then find out that it got moved 3 blocks to the left in 3 days' time, and then you have to go out there and circulate more petitions.
Or 6 counties.
Or 6 counties, right.
Or you don't live in the district.
Or you don't even live in the district where you're
running.
running, which is a possibility.
Yeah.
And it's just a mess. What I find sort of mildly amusing is this outrage on behalf of Speaker Smith, who says these districts are unconstitutional, yet they seem to be just fine like 18 months ago.
Yeah.
But be that as it may. You know, there's real issues here. In fact, the Latino community has a genuine growth.
Right.
There was 1 Latino seat, added 3, so there are 4 in play now, including
right.
1 in the city of Allentown, where my newspaper is,
Right.
that could potentially be invalidated. That was designed to be a majority Latino district up there. So there are some real concerns about the balance of representation.
They're saying, Latino community in Philadelphia, an organization saying, we're going to sue because we now have 4 Latino majority seats. The old plan, the one we're operating on now, we have 1.
One in
we have
Philadelphia,
1.
that's right.
All right, Matt, look, this municipality breakup, that's probably going to be the basis of this. You've taken a look at South Central Pennsylvania. You didn't find a lot of, but what is that number, 110 municipalities broken up? Isn't that what Thursday said?
More than that. I think
Is it more than that? I thought it was
much larger.
Well, go ahead.
I think that the concern in South Central Pennsylvania, our viewing area at WGAL, I think that you don't find some egregious areas. But get on the website, look at the maps for Westchester. You have basically that community split in 2. Just did a report the other day about how you're standing along 1 block and you have the same lawmaker on both sides. Go 1 block south and you have 1 lawmaker and another lawmaker on this, and then you go 1 block further and then it's lawmaker number 2 the whole way.
Yeah.
I mean, how are you expecting people to follow that? That's the worry, I would guess, of the court, that people won't be able to get their minds around their government and know who represents
Go ahead,
them.
Amy, you wanted to say
Right,
something.
no, I was going to say, I think it's Westchester University, right?
they
Actually, the
extricated
boundary
it.
goes like right through the campus.
Yeah. Well, look, but going forward, is it conceivable that the 2001 maps would remain in place? It seems to me that that's what the court is saying. Use the current maps.
Justice Max Baer said that the other week to Capital Wire that it's his expectation that the 01 maps will be in place for the 2012 cycle, simply because there's not going to be enough time. If you go through the full-blown public process that they went through with the first drawing of the maps, with the presentation of a map, a 30-day public comment period, a vote, and then a 30-day period to appeal, by then you're already into May, and that's past the primary. Unless
we're out of time.
Or unless you bifurcate it.
But no, well, or have the primary in July. You know, and
two primaries.
We did, or two primaries. All right, it's getting complicated. All right, you and your taxes, the Credit Union Association has some hints for you. We'll have those folks on after we pay some bills talking about taxes.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by Highmark Blue Shield, changing the way health plans work for business with a variety of plan options for employers and more choices for employees. Information is available at highmark.com. Have a greater hand in your company's health. And by the Pennsylvania Healthcare Association, the future of long-term care.
Welcome back to the program. Well, oh gosh, it's income tax time. Joining me, as often is the case, is Mike Wishnow. He's a senior VP at the Pennsylvania Credit Union Association, and Deb Kauffman. She's over with the White Rose Federal Credit Union in York. She's a CEO. Gosh, Michael, income tax time, we have a whole bunch of stuff to think about. Now, it just made me a little nauseous thinking about we have to do our income tax. But there's a couple of things we want to talk about. We want to talk about this voluntary income tax preparation program. What's that about?
Sure. What it is, Terry, it's a federal program that helps folks who are on the low, moderate income scale claim the
Appropriate
earned income tax credit.
Oh, okay.
And the earned income tax credit can be anywhere from $500 to $5,500 for families.
Wow.
And 25% of the folks that could be claiming this credit are leaving it on the table because they don't know they can claim it. Now, what the VITA program is, there are volunteers that will help them to claim this, help them to file their taxes, help them to claim this. And I know Deb's credit union does that.
Yes. How will that actually work? Walk through it, you know, what your credit union is doing and how people can access that. Go ahead, help our viewers out.
Well,
here.
after many weeks of training, they do have about a whole month's worth of training that they have to go through different segments and to get trained on it and test out the volunteers that have to do that. At that point, then the people call in to the 800 number for the taxes at their local area, and they get appointments at the different locations they can pick. We, at that point, go through all of the different claims that they could do, ask them if they've had different types of things happening with whether it's for child care or anything like that, any deductions that they could possibly claim that they might have forgotten in previous years.
Yeah. I think it's probably true that without expert tax help, let me put it that way, that is it your sense that people are probably not claiming the full deductions and credits that they would be eligible for? Is that what the studies have shown?
Yeah.
So let's say you know, one of our viewers out there, and how would they find out what number to call? I mean,
well,
Michael,
there's an IRS number for folks that would be eligible for the VITA program.
So in other words, you could call information and get the local...
Call the 800 IRS number or go to the IRS's website, irs.gov.
You listening to this, IRS. I mean, this is important because I think a lot of people don't even know how to access it, right?
Absolutely. And it's not just credit unions, in fairness. I mean, there are a lot of organizations. There's schools or community organizations, AARP. There are a number of folks that do tax assistance, and they do it in virtually every community across the U.S.
Well, first of all, what's the earned income tax credit? I mean, explain that tax and who it affects and what could happen here.
Well, what that is if depends on the income and the number of children that you have. You are able to get so much back from the government for having children at a lower income because of providing for them. So they go through, and there's a formula that you have to calculate through on the system. With the VITA program, everything's electronic on site, so it does the calculations for you, but you have to have the information. And if somebody of the lower served don't have the knowledge to read through all their programmings if they're trying to do their own free taxes, they will miss that completely.
Do you have an income range, or don't we know? You have to sort of call and check on it. I mean, everybody describes this low and middle income.
Yeah, generally you have to call and check on it. As Deb said, it really is based on the number of dependents.
Yeah.
The high end is close to $50,000. I think it's $48,000.
Yes, right. This year they changed it to $50,000.
$50,000.
And
okay.
25. The estimates are that as many as 25% of Pennsylvanians that are eligible for this credit don't even apply. Is that right?
That is correct.
Yeah, and think about the economic development implications of that. I mean, if all these people had, a couple of $1,000s, anywhere from $500 to $5,000 more to spend in the local economy, I mean, that would be good for everybody.
Well, I know at Franklin and Marshall College, there's actually a class or a students and a professor that went into the Lancaster community and worked on helping people do this and gained, the number's not in my head, I want to say $500,000, I could be wrong, in money that came back to consumers, particularly low and moderate income, as you point out, $500 to $5,600, that's a lot of money.
Well, I did notice that this year they're advertising a lot more on the earned income tax.
Oh, so you mean that you think that
they're advertising more that they should try to,
should try to do this?
Yeah,
and the IRS does proactively try to get more folks to claim it.
All right.
I mean, because it's there for the taking for people who need it and who deserve it.
All right, before I let you all go, Michael, I always ask this question, state of the economy as you see it with credit expansion and people borrowing, loosening the pocketbook, so to speak, how do we stand?
Well, it's going to be a borrower's market for a long time.
Yeah.
Within the last few weeks, the Federal Reserve Board came out and said they're not going to raise interest rates to the end of 2014. So that means
so so Deb, you can refinance your home at somewhere between 3% and 4%, right?
Pretty close, yeah.
Pretty close, and you can buy a house, and same with the interest rates?
Yes.
How about this question? This is something that I've thought a lot about. We're talking about all these homes that are underwater. Our viewers understand what that means. Underwater, but how are home purchases going in general? I mean, in terms of your loans, you see a slight increase in them, or where does that stand?
For purchasing on the lower income, on the lower level value of the homes,
right.
Not the high value homes. The higher value homes are not moving real fast.
High end not moving.
At least in York County.
Lower ones, and you're in a growth area down in York, so you would expect to see the housing market turn around there. Do you have an excess of homes on the market in some places?
Yes.
All right, well look, as always, I want to thank you for coming in. Michael, we need to get back at some point to this whole business of credit cards and where we stand with them and whether we're borrowing, so at some point in the next couple of months we'll have you back and we can weigh into that. All right, as always, I want to thank you for watching Pennsylvania Newsmakers, and stay well.